So today I'm gonna look at some reasons Irish women are evil. We just are. In case you weren't familiar, historically Irish women have pretty much always been depicted as evil, and there's a couple of reasons for this, I hypothesize. You will never meet anyone more stubborn and headstrong than an Irish woman. Historically, Irish women have typically been described as beautiful, and here's the thing, people fear strong women. So they made up some stories to scare everybody off them. Before I get into today's video, do be sure to subscribe, like, and comment for the old algorithm, otherwise an Irish curse will befall you, and that curse will be: what you see in the mirror will not be an accurate representation of how you look. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. Better just subscribe, like, and comment for the sake of it. I'm going to begin this video by quoting the iconic Maureen O'Hara, Irish actress of Hollywood extraordinaire. If ever there was a role model, it's her. She said, "Being an Irish woman means many things to me. An Irish woman is strong and feisty. She has guts and stands up for what she believes in. She believes she is the best at whatever she does and proceeds through life with that knowledge. She can face any hazard that life throws her way and stays with it until she wins. She's loyal to her kinsmen, and she's not above a sock in the jaw if you have it coming." I mean, that pretty much sums it up. The first urban legend about Irish women we're going to look at is the Demon Bride of Monaghan. This is one you might actually be familiar with. The Demon Bride is said to wander Monaghan graveyards in search of her next victim. The Demon Bride is thought to have long blonde hair and bright red lips. She seeks out the souls of young single men. When they attend a funeral, they'll find themselves lagging behind, the last one in attendance at the graveyard. The last one, but for the Demon Bride. She strikes up a conversation, seducing the young man to meet her a month from the day at that same graveyard. Oh, but there's a plot twist worthy of Shyamalan coming. See, what the young man doesn't know is that he's agreed to a binding contract for his soul. From that meeting, he'll find himself growing progressively more mad as his soul disappears from his body. His face and words become contorted, and his responses to people are crazy. Eventually, as the end of the month draws to a close, he becomes completely insane, eventually dying. Sometimes he'll kill himself, sometimes a tragic accident will befall him, but either way, his body finds its way back to the graveyard in a coffin. And so, technically speaking, he stuck to the contract. He met the Demon Bride a month from the day that he met her. And she has his soul, so, you know, win-win. I do love a happy ending, don't you? Not really for the guy. Next up on a similar kind of train of thought is the Valentines Demon. You guessed it, she strikes on Valentine's Day. A lot of Irish men will find their mummies telling them not to walk the canals late at night. But specifically on Valentine's Day, this demon comes out in search of, you guessed it, the souls of young men. This specific demon is said to have long, red, curly hair and a flawless complexion. She wears a white dress, however, when you look into her eyes, you will see nothing. Her soul is blank. But, you know, lads will be lads, they don't really care about her personality too much because she's hot. The Valentine's Demon catches these young men when they're alone. She's crying, and of course, if you're passing a young girl crying and she's hot, you're gonna stop and talk to her, but that's when you're doomed. Again, this demonic Irish woman seduces the man into kissing her, and it's through that transaction that she sucks his soul out of his body. But here's the creepy part. He returns home to everyone like nothing happened. But now he doesn't have a soul. So soulless, he has to live out the rest of his awful life until he dies, and then he obviously gets to go to the pits of hell because that's where his soul is. They're reunited. It's kind of not a happy ending, but it is.
My soul.
And this final one, oh, this is a good story. The Mirror Lady of Belveley Castle. Belveley Castle was owned by the Hodnett family for years and years. They were very wealthy people in Ireland. That is, until the Barry and Roach families came along and took it for themselves. Oh, those guys. But they were super nice, of course, and leased it back to the Hodnett family, so, you know, real nice. Anyway, in 1865, Margaret Hodnett lived at the castle. She was beyond beautiful. Of course, they're all beautiful. They're all beautiful in these stories. But no, she was devastatingly gorgeous. She even had suitors from as far afield as Scotland who tried to get her to marry them. Of course, it didn't hurt that there was an old castle thrown into the mix. Lady Margaret loved mirrors. Mirrors back then were like a real indulgence for people. They were expensive. She also loved any reflective surfaces because she was so beautiful, you know? You could say she was obsessed with mirrors, okay? Let's say she was obsessed with mirrors and looking at herself. I know a few people like that today. The thing about Margaret, though, was that she was wild and free-spirited. She couldn't be tamed. Some people even said she had a wee touch of the crazy about her. She didn't want to settle down, so she kind of toyed with guys' emotions a lot. She'd friend-zone them, and then she'd dangle them on a string, kind of making them think she'd be with them, and then just kind of leave them for dust. Well, eventually, she messed with the wrong guy. So this dude, Rockinby, was hanging by her side for a number of years, till eventually she basically told him he was endgame, until she told him he wasn't anymore. Rockinby was not happy. I mean, he had his own castle and stuff, so he seemed to be actually genuinely in love with her. But all this love soon turned to hatred, and he summoned his own army to surround the castle, starving the family out until Margaret would agree to wed him. He did, however, let just enough food through so as they could survive the whole thing, but it was always rotten food, nothing fresh. Back in those days, you couldn't order pizza either, which is just horrible, horrific. Margaret was, of course, an Irish woman, and she was very stubborn with it, so she was not giving in. Much as he tried to starve her into submission, she said no. The guards managed to fend off the other troops for a really long time, but they couldn't get them to back off, so getting food in was not an option. Eventually, Rockinby said no more food. He wasn't even willing to keep the good lines between his family and theirs by giving them a little bit of bad food. He said no more food. And of course, the Hodnick clan eventually surrendered, raising the white flag. I'm going to read you an extract of the official story from the website because it's really well put. Hodnet found himself in the inner court. He came face to face with Lady Margaret. Her reddened eyes looked out at him from great desolation. She was so weak from hunger she could scarcely stand. She leaned on the arm of an old serving woman who wept miserably. Margaret stood with her back to the mirror, looking Clon full in the face. Pointing to her face, she said, Look what you have done. Then she turned slowly until reflected in the depths of the Venetian mirror at the foot of the stairs was a pitiful, shivering, withered woman. The mirror which for years had given back from its shadows the face of resplendently beautiful Lady Margaret. Rockinby couldn't face speaking to her, so he fled, telling his armies to retreat. But in the meantime, Lady Margaret's brother reached for his bow and shot Rockinby dead. From that day on, Lady Margaret could not look in a mirror again, demanding that all the mirrors around the castle be smashed. That is, until the day she died of old age. She demanded that she was buried with one intact mirror. It is said that to this day, Lady Margaret still haunts Belveley Castle. A €5 million refurbishment of the property was done, but the owners have said that they've seen strange things in the reflective surfaces and mirrors at the castle. Only now, Lady Margaret still refuses to show her actual face, covering it with veils. It's speculated that underneath the veil may indeed be the withered, ugly face she was left with, but others say that she's now faceless. Well, none of us are going to sleep tonight. Wonderful. By the way, if you like this kind of video, you can check out my Diane Before Dawn channel. It's kind of more true crime stuff, but equally dark. So yeah, check that out. And that's it. See you on the other side. Bye. Are you scared? Are you scared, Chili? Are you scared of my red lips?